Here we are, episode 2, Parc Ferm, the number one Canadian podcast about Formula One. The number one
That's
Canadian podcast. The number one Formula One Canadian podcast. There we go. Got it right on that try. We're here with Drew, Edward, Thomas from around the globe. And how do we want to get started today? Maybe we should do a little race recap?
It was a fantastic race. Lots of rain, lots of DNFs, not a single podium. So very entertaining to watch, and hopefully, it never repeats itself again.
Yes, and on another note with that, I know we joked about that because I don't think at the time we realized how serious that was. But thoughts and prayers go out to everybody at Armenia. Imola, that was they got devastated. That region got absolutely smacked around, and they got, from what I found out, they got 6 months of rain in 36 hours. So they got absolutely slapped around, and so hopefully everything out there goes okay, and everyone sorts themselves out, because FIA made a good call, and I think that moving on from that race was a good idea. But thoughts and prayers.
Have you guys seen if the waters have already receded or not yet? I
haven't really been following, to be honest.
Oh,
nah.
Yeah, because when I saw the pictures, it was just like everything was just flooded, literally everything. I mean, 6 months of rain,
like landslides. Yeah. It got pretty messy over there for sure. They just they didn't have the infrastructures. From what I heard from local weather was that they usually have a heavy melt, and so all the snow from the ice caps in the mountains melt, and that's what gives the ground that stabilization to take the spring rain. But they didn't have that, and that goes back to the global warming and the 2020 or 2030 zero emissions thing. So hopefully that we get that figured out. Cool. So
that's the recap, which there really wasn't much of a recap. But we're looking forward to Monaco now. This is personally one of my favorite races on the schedule. I mean, the race itself is whatever, but it's just a spectacle. It's the history. It's everything like that. Does everyone else look forward to this, Edward? What do you think? You looking forward to Monaco?
Oh, I mean, honestly, from a fan and also a sim racing point of view, it's one of my favorite tracks. It's always interesting because I find that even if there's no areas of overtakes, it's all about the strategy. This is where the engineers and the strategists actually come out and show their chops. Because if they got it right, they can win. But in the past few years, what happened to Ferrari a few years ago, how they messed that up, how Ricciardo was able to win a couple of times, all about strategy. So to me, from a driver's point of view, I mean, it's all about quality, but the entire race in itself, the entire weekend, it's all about the strategy. It's all about the engineers and see what they can pull out. So I'm quite excited. How about you, Thomas? What do you think about it?
For Monaco, I'm a little bit different opinion. I like it because of the historic fact it's been with F1 forever. It's not one of my favorite tracks, but just because me personally, I find it a little bit maybe boring is not the word, but not as entertaining as it could be. Edward, like you said, it's all about strategy. Plus, the best strategy is most likely going to come up on top. Whoever did the qualifying the best, it has a very, very high chance of winning it. So that's where I land on Monaco. What about you, Drew?
Monaco. It's the track. When you think of Formula One, you think of the 1960s posters and all that stuff. And Monaco is always the number one track. I like it, again, like you said, Thomas, because of the historic factor. I think there's a lot of legends have been built and written and cemented there. Do I think it's the most entertaining race? No. I think a lot of the things around the race are very exciting. I'm pumped about the celeb stuff that's going to be there. Everyone's partying. It's I think there's an atmosphere around it that I get excited about. If you said what's one F1 race you want to go to before you die, that's probably the one. You know what I mean? Just for what you said, right? Do I think it's the most exciting race? No. But I also think like, there's a lot of teams that need to do a lot of things, I think, in this upcoming Monaco, that was missed in Imola. And I think that because we have a shorter season now, all of the teams with the upgrades, I think, are going to have an ability to either push for their upgrades to come out in Monaco, or they're going to wait to see what happens. Like I think Mercedes has some side pods that they've been working on, but I don't know if they're going to want to, debut them here, and one of the boys puts it in a wall or somebody crashes on it, because who wants to find out the hard way that a $2 million project is going to be, whether it's going to work or not. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm pumped for the race this weekend. Obviously, as an F1 junkie, I haven't had my fix, but I am looking forward to the race. How about you, Walk?
Yeah, I think to your point, the bucket list of races to go to is Monaco, and it's definitely on my list as well. So who knows? Maybe Monaco 2024 will all be sponsored by Aston Martin, and they'll have us to the race. But I want to go back to something you were talking about, Edward, about the strategy piece. And a lot of people look at Monaco in terms of, it's qualifying. Like you're there to qualify, and that's the running order, and that's just how it's going to end. Your point of view, how do you see strategy really playing into the race itself? What are some of the different elements you would look for?
Well, for me, it's more about the play between when are they going to box if there is going to be an incident, which normally there's always an incident in Monaco. Someone either clips the corner on the final chicane, or even at before entering the tunnel. Like always, there's something. There's always something that's happening, and then from there, it's all about playing it. Do they stay out? Do they get newer tires? Do they go for the long run? Like that's kind of like how I would normally see it, and how everyone would see it. But like for me, it's all about that part. Wherein, how are they playing it? Are they gonna bring someone in or not? And the other part of that too is, and that's why I said earlier, like the focus is on the engineers, focus is on the strategists. Like the course is also super short. And they can make a radio call like in the midst of everything, and that's everything that's happening for the driver. And it could be late, it could be early. Like when do they really have to bring someone in? When do they have to make some changes? And then and I glossed over this part where the setup for the race, like during free practice, what kind of package do they have to be bringing in? High downforce, or are they trying to go for faster speeds? Like what mix is there to to be built out for the race? So that's why for me, I mean, yes, like it's everyone else's concession in terms of like the race is boring because there's no overtaking. There is pretty much quali. That's the session of the race. That's what happens. But who knows? Like someone might pull a rabbit out of the hat, and the strategist might do something like really interesting. They win the race somehow. Like I mean, I still can't forget what happened to Leclerc. I think it was like either 2021 or 2022, wherein they called him to box when he didn't need to, and it just messed up his entire race. I forgot what race that was, but it was so depressing because he killed it in quali. He killed it in free practice. He was on the beat the entire weekend leading up to the race. And then one mistake of calling him to box, it messed up everything.
Typical Ferrari.
Typical Ferrari. So speaking of Leclerc, I'm curious to hear your opinions on who is going to put it in the wall first this weekend.
First or in total? Because I think Nick Debris is gonna touch a wall. He is absolutely going to touch a wall.
Okay, so you got Debris. Thomas, who do you have?
To put in the wall, I don't know if they're going to put in the wall, but I think Ferrari's going to have more issues with their cars, just seeing how previous races went. And I think Ferrari's going to be one of those people they're going to be out. I mean, Leclerc didn't have the best couple of races in Monaco at all with the NFs and transmission issues, and he didn't get the race. So I'm putting my money on Leclerc. It's going to be Ferrari basically.
Ed, you got a guess?
I don't know. I'm torn because I would say Ferrari from the start, but I would also say Haas is Nico Hulkenberg. Like when he I don't know if you guys have noticed, he's been like aggressive out almost every race. Like he's come out with a vengeance, and like I have a feeling that he's gonna try to push it a little bit more because he's been overshadowed by Magnussen, and just like I have a feeling that he might push. But yeah, the typical guys that hit the wall, De Vries, I would say maybe even Yuki Tsunoda. But yeah, like I would say
tsunami coming in.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? I have a feeling that Hulkenberg has a chip on his shoulder, and he was going to want to try to prove himself for Monaco.
I like it. Walker, what's your call?
I mean, despite throwing a little shade on Leclerc just now, I'm actually going to go with Logan Sargent. I think, throw a rookie in that on that track, someone who doesn't have a lot of confidence, has had a few rough races, and like it's almost preordained. Like you're just gonna kiss the wall a couple of times.
For sure.
So Logan Sargent is my pick.
Actually, that's a good choice.
It's definitely going to be an interesting episode 3 to see if our predictions came true or if we were close.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, also looking at Monaco, I think one of the things that I'm looking forward to as a Mercedes fan is seeing what package they're going to bring with them. From what I hear, rumors are that they're bringing the full upgrade package, what you would have seen at Imola. Anyone else have any thoughts on that? Looking forward to it. What do you think they're going to do this weekend?
I think that Alpine and I think McLaren, I also hope that Mercedes comes with their package. I know that they've put a lot of work in. There's been a lot of talk around Formula One news, the paddock and all that kind of stuff that I've been reading, that there are some big upgrades coming out. I've also heard that a lot of teams are weary about bringing it to Monaco, again, for the same reasons that we're talking about. We're not asking if they're going to put it in a wall. We're saying who's going to put it in the wall, right? Mm-hmm. And with the money that these guys are talking about, I don't actually know if they're going to have the true test of these upgrades. They're not going to want to bring these upgrades out to a one in an entire season race because there's no other Monacos. You know what I mean? It's like, I guess Singapore would probably be the next closest. But, that being said, I just don't think that a lot of teams are going to want to risk it, especially if it's not a high downforce upgrade. Just my 2 cents. I'd love to see the new Mercedes out on track with the side pods. Obviously, I'm a Mercedes fan by nature, but, is it a smart play financially and, as far as testing, like the numbers are concerned? I don't know if it's the smartest play, straight up. How about you, Ed?
Honestly, I think, and this is kind of like alluding to the other topic that we wanted to talk about, but I don't want to talk about it just yet. I think that they should bring out all the upgrades, being that Hamilton really needs to see, because he's been making a lot of noise. Like everyone knows that Hamilton's been very, very vocal about how Mercedes is, they're not really performing really, really well. And, how Toto Wolff was like, everyone's got a target behind their backs. And I'm like, you're seeing just a target, nothing else. So at this point, like, I think they need to bring it. They need to show the entire arsenal of upgrades that they have. However, the other side of it is that, to Drew's point, is financially speaking, like there is a lot of investment that was put into it. And with any type of testing, one of the most technical and tightest tracks in the entire calendar, if you bring it out there, you make one mistake, yes, you're going to the wall or you're going to break it, and it's a double-edged sword. you not only destroy the car and the upgrades, you just prove to Lewis Hamilton that whatever upgrades you've done, it's not going to work. And he's not going to be happy again. So, like it's now up to Toto and the rest of the engineers. Like, do we bring it or not? So that's how I would see it. What about you, Thomas? What do you think about that?
You guys, both of you, Edward and Drew, hit the nail on that perfectly. Mercedes needs those upgrades, and what you said, Drew, I don't think it's a good idea. It's too costly. This is not the right time. This is not the track for it. And my 2 cents, I think they would be better off waiting till a more track that's more overtake friendly. Like I said, you guys basically, I think made all the points, and yeah, it's not the right time or place to bring those upgrades out. Definitely not Monaco.
So it's interesting seeing you guys all kind of share the same opinion, because I kind of have the other side of it. I think they need as much track time with this new setup as possible, and I think any kind of data collection that they can get is going to benefit them just because they're so behind. Even if it's Monaco, and as I understand, it's going to be a bit of a higher downforce package as well, so that will serve them well at that track. But I think at this point it's like, budget cap, whatever, money, whatever. Like, I think it's just like we need to get the drivers in the seats of these new cars, these new dynamics, and collect data. Like, that's all it is: data collection, data collection, data collection. Because, as I mentioned, they're just so far behind that I think they don't have any choice but to bring it this weekend. So we'll see. We'll see kind of which one of us are right and which one of us are wrong. But and it's also something to look forward to. I mean, just selfishly, I'm looking for like a little bit of a change, a little bit of an update, something to look forward to.
That I agree with. I'm in your camp on that one, Walker. I'd love to see something different. I'd like to see some spice on the track. Just to kind of shake it up a little bit. Yeah,
progress is nice, right?
Yeah.
Anything, even if it's backwards, just like let's see some kind of action, because to everyone's point, right, it's been a bit of a painful season so far. No one's really happy. Lewis is not happy, which Edward alluded to earlier as well, talking about what is going to happen. There have been some rumors that have come up about Lewis and his future with Mercedes. The main rumor that I think is swirling around right now is Ferrari next year. Thomas, what do you think?
It's definitely a spicy rumor. I'm a little bit torn what to think about this. Leclerc's signed a great amount of time with Ferrari, and and he wants to win the world championship. I see he has the flame. He wants to get it. Lewis is one of the greatest drivers on the grid right now, no doubt. But I think he's really, really committed to Mercedes, and I think Mercedes is really committed to him. And I read that Ferrari is willing to give Lewis a shit ton of money, basically, to jump team or do a driver flip or something like that. But I don't really see that happening. I think Lewis is going to stick it out in Mercedes and be loyal to Mercedes and Toto and try for the world championship. What about you, Edward?
Honestly, I'm still reeling from that, that final race where Verstappen won his first. I'm still bitter about that, honestly.
Still in recovery. Yeah.
Still in recovery for that. But no, so I mean, like in the past, there's been like tons of little pundits that have been talking about Lewis thinking of Ferrari when he saw Sebastian Vettel move over from Red Bull to Ferrari. Like he took it to Lewis during the heydays of Mercedes. During the previous iteration of their vehicles. But you know what? Honestly speaking, like from someone who has followed Lewis from his very first Formula One debut, I have a feeling that he may stick it out. I agree with Thomas. He may stick it out, but it'll depend too on what Mercedes does this year, being that his contract is ending this year, and a lot of other teams are going to really try to get him, and Ferrari being that one, and you know how I have a feeling too that might be, if it does happen, Carlos Sainz's seat is going to be, you know, in peril. But yeah, like it would really depend on how Mercedes performs this year. Because if they do, like, if they can even at least take it to Aston Martin, this is kind of like beating them right now, and take it to Ferrari, depending on the new package that they have, he may stay. But if it gets bad and like nothing still happens, no changes whatsoever, to Mercedes's like car, you'll never know. It could happen, honestly, because like when Lewis went from McLaren to Mercedes, he went to that team when their car was not good. Like their car was horrible. They were losing left and right.
Ship at the perfect time. Definitely ship at the perfect time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I that's how I would see it. Like it'll really depend on what Mercedes does this year.
I think that there's a couple of like parallel storylines here, because we have the issue of whether Lewis Hamilton is going to Ferrari, how bad Ferrari wants Lewis Hamilton. I think what I've been hearing around the paddock is that 40 million euros is what Hamilton has been offered. I don't know if it's about the money. I'd love to say that it's about like a story ending of having Hamilton be at Ferrari. Every race car driver always wants to drive for Ferrari at some point in time. There's that portion of it as well. You know, there's a lot of conflicting ideas. Like, do you want the guy who like jumped to Mercedes and had an absolutely amazing career there, took it from zero to hero, was the hero, is the hero, and just, you know, leave it there and retire gracefully with the team that like made him? Or does he jump ship? You know, his idol Niki Lauda, like, you know, Ayrton Senna, these guys, like, they were jumping ship all over the place. And would he like to go to Ferrari at the end? Of course. Is Ferrari going to be able to offer him a car to get his 8th championship? Who knows? I can't call that. I have no idea. As of right now, no. I don't think Ferrari's delivering a car like that. If he goes, you know, play that out. Like if he goes to Ferrari, he's going to be taking Carlos Sainz's seat. Let's call that right now. Does he want to play second fiddle to Leclerc? Leclerc is going to be their driver long term. They can't even put the money and time and effort into Hamilton. He'll be like, you know, the secondary, even tertiary spotlight in his glory years on his way out. Is that how he wants to be remembered, as like a whatever driver for Ferrari, while Leclerc's taking all the, you know, all the credit and the champion, you know, all that stuff? And I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. What's that?
No, finish off. Sorry.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about it. I think that, you know, Lewis Hamilton, I love him. He's my favorite driver. I love him. I think he's a GOAT. Great driver, great person. But I don't know if the Ferrari plays the play. I think he has more loyalty bone in his body, Sir Lewis Hamilton.
For sure. And you know, to the point that you were just making, you know, everyone's assuming that Ferrari is an upgrade at this point, which I don't know if they are, right? From, you know, a pure machine standpoint, I don't know, debatable. From a team standpoint and a strategy standpoint and the way they run that place, fuck no. So I'm going to put it out there. I think there is zero chance he is going anywhere. I think he is going to sign another 2-year deal with Mercedes. He's going to finish his career. He's going to see how it goes. Maybe he, you know, if there's really no progress in the platform after next year, maybe he'll dip out early, but I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's got too much invested in that team. I think he has too much of a relationship with them. I think it's just so intertwined, and I don't, there's nowhere else on the grid that he could go other than Red Bull that could give him a better chance of winning at this point, and we all know that's definitely not happening. So yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere, but it's fun to talk about, but I think it's completely unrealistic. That's my take.
So that brings me to another point on that, that parallel storyline I'm talking about. We are just openly assuming and talking that Ferrari's dumping Sainz. Like, we just assumed that. You know what I mean? Like, they both have contracts till the end of next year. And I think that there's an ability, because we have the Audi Sauber team coming in, that Sainz jumps over there. I think that might be a very good opportunity for him to get not a number 2 fiddle. Get a good seat in a good car. If there's some good upgrades that happen there, that team has a big shakeup, and eventually by 2026, it'll be Audi official. Sauber won't be a part of it anymore, from my understanding. But, Thomas, what do you think about that? Like, how do you feel about, Sainz and Leclerc and what Ferrari's got planned short and medium term?
Honestly, this is a good question. I think I don't see any other drivers that suit Ferrari as well as those two. I think they screen Ferrari perfectly. They seem loyal, and it seems like they belong there. Like I said, I don't think Hamilton is gonna jump over ship the Ferrari. I think both of them are gonna stick it out there for as long as Ferrari's Ferrari, and as long as they want to be there, and the team is willing to have them. That's my take, and yeah, that's where I stand. What about you, Walker?
Well, yeah, I'm kind of challenging the notion that Charles has a firm grip on that number 1 position. 2 years ago, 100%, he was like, the wonder kid. He was the star. He was firmly the number 1 driver. I don't necessarily think he's proven himself to be a solid number 1 seat in that team, given his performance over the last, couple of years. Now, yeah, a lot of it was, operationally, Ferrari had a lot of issues last year, which we all know about. But, he also threw it in the wall a few times when there was really no reason to throw it in the wall. And I think, he is the incumbent number 1, but I think Sainz makes a really strong case, maybe not be the number 1 on that team, but to at least, be treated fairly as an equal. I don't see as clear of a hierarchy in that team as you see in Red Bull, or you see in Aston Martin, or even Mercedes, right? That's not how we see that team. Edward, what do you think?
I don't know, because there was a race last year. I forgot what race that was, where Carlos Sainz was ahead, and they kept on calling on on Carlos to kind of give way to Leclerc.
The swap, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that, and it. I don't know. With
he told them to fuck off. If anyone else hadn't watched the race, he said,
"Not
a chance. I understand what you're saying. Check, but beat it."
Yeah, no, exactly, and just me going back in my memories, like when the new platform came in, like the first few races between Red Bull and Ferrari. I don't know if you guys remember that first race wherein every single corner, Max and Leclerc would just swap places every single time. Like Max would chase him down on the straight, and then once they get into the infield in the technical corners, Leclerc would get ahead again. So it's just if Leclerc kind of brings out a little bit more of that, yeah, he's definitely the number 1 driver, regardless of what happens to Carlos Sainz. But I have a feeling that Carlos Sainz is going to kind of try to turn it up this season, being that he had a taste of it last season. Like he was getting a little bit more preferential treatment. He was adding a little bit more spice into his driving, and yeah, I mean, who knows when the new team comes in for Audi? I don't know what will happen, but just like any other team, when your second driver is not happy, I mean, let's talk about the big rivalries and the teams. Like you send out Prost, you have Lewis Hamilton, and who was the other guy? Nico Rosberg. You had the old Red Bull pairing of Mark
Fernando
Webber,
Alonso, and everybody.
And everybody, exactly. The pettiness of Fernando Alonso. It really depends on, at the end of the day, who performs. But yeah, I think Leclerc is going to take this team if he continues to just try to, better himself and try to bring out the old Leclerc and then stop complaining about all of the issues with the car, all the issues with the bad calls. Honestly, I think the drivers are good. Everything else in Ferrari is just why it keeps on happening.
Yeah, I mean they've both shown flashes of brilliance, right? Like, they've all shown that they can be winning drivers, that they can lead a team. It's consistency, right? Consistency within the team, but also consistency within the drivers, which is severely lacking in that team all throughout. It's probably systemic to a certain degree, right? But every facet of that team is showing inconsistency, and that's why they're not able to really achieve, the levels of greatness that perhaps they could with the machinery that they have, with the resources that they have, being one of the biggest teams in the sport.
I honestly thought that they were going to. Go ahead.
I think Leclerc. The argument's been made repetitively that he is the fastest driver on the grid right now over the course of one lap. Whether you agree with that or not, he's shown that time and time again. Like, to call him Mr. Qualifier is not a stretch, right? That guy throws together some absolutely insane laps over one lap. And this is where I think the Aston Martin team does not have the one lap pace, but they have the race pace over the course of an entire, like, it's a long time around that track. It's not just one quali session. And Leclerc, there's a tipping point for that car, and he pushes it every single time, and that's how he gets that amazing quality time. But you can't keep pushing that every single lap in a race, and he does that because he wants to stay competitive, and that's in his DNA code. But that Ferrari is on a knife edge, like a razor's edge. And if that's a line, he rides a fucking unicycle down that line, because he pushes it like he's a habitual line stepper over the line every time. And unfortunately, him stepping over the line costs race wins, costs millions of dollars, I'm sure. And, well, at least for us, it gives us something to talk about, which is awesome. But I think, too, that, like, this is the quality pace versus the race pace is exactly where I think Fernando Alonso is going to come into play, because that Aston Martin has that race pace. And anytime people have talked to Fernando after a race, they're saying, like, when's your win? When's your win? And he's guaranteeing a win this year. Without, I'm paraphrasing, but, like, without saying those words, he's like, I'm winning a race this year. Non-negotiable, which I think is awesome. And everyone said, what race? And he says, Monaco. So, like, it's time to put up or shut up. You know what I mean? This is it right now for Fernando Alonso. What do you think? Do you think Fernando Alonso, let's take a poll right now. Do you guys think Fernando Alonso is going to quali? Because that quali is going to show what that train car looks like as they all go through Monaco. Do you think Fernando Alonso has the quali pace in him and in that Aston Martin underneath him
to win this race, Monaco?
Yeah, he's called it. He said this is his race.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's winning Monaco. I don't think he's.
That was a quick no, dude. You didn't even hesitate on that one. Yeah,
no. No, I don't think that. I don't think the car has the pace for that track. I don't think he's going. He might be top 4. Maybe I could see him qualifying top 4. But he's not winning Monaco. Ed, what do you think?
I don't know. I want to root for him because, like, every time he gets
him.
on the.
I love him.
Yeah. No, but I want him to win. Like, because
I know everyone does.
I think we all do.
Everyone's there's like this nostalgia about him. You just want Old Man Rivers to, like, pull through on a race and just, like, I don't know. You're right, Eddie, 100%, dude. Everyone wants him to win. I hope he can pull it off.
I feel the same way because it's like every single race that he's got a podium, there's so many chances he could have won that race. So many chances. And like with his experience in Monaco, like he is he the oldest driver? I think he is the oldest driver on the grid right now. Or is it?
It's him or Lewis, isn't it?
I don't know the exact numbers, but I know that Fernando's kids are going to start racing soon. So, like, yeah, probably.
Yeah, so I think he is the oldest on the grid. But yeah, I mean, I agree with Walker. He's not going to win it. They don't have the pace. They don't have the pace.
I'm the same. I'm the same way with Walker and Edward. I think top 6 for sure. But to win a podium is, I would say, as you all say, we're rooting for him. We want him to win. Monaco would be fucking amazing if he could pull off a podium, but I don't see it happening.
Let's plug the blog. Our boy Thomas here, writer extraordinaire. He put out a couple of blog posts this week in which I read, and I suggest everyone do the same, plug, about controversies in F1. So I'm going to bring up call it an unpopular, controversial opinion. And whether you guys think it's the truth or not, there's been some rumors around of like, okay, let's have Fernando Alonso put in a ripping lap. And then 2 minutes before qualies are done, let's have Lance Stroll put it in the wall. End it. You know what I mean? Like, that's how... It's not happened before.
Isn't that like Circa Perez last year?
Bingo. You nailed it,
Maybe.
Dude. Like,
maybe.
I'm not saying.
Allegedly.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, allegedly. So Eddie, what do you got?
Could happen. But what I was thinking, but here again, like I mean, I always like to be on the other side of the fence. I always want to be, counter, anti-clockwise, whatever you want to call it. I have a feeling, and this could be a hot take. A lot of people who probably be listening to this podcast maybe like, Edward's insane. Like, he's crazy. He's talking nonsense. I have a feeling that Checo is going to try to prove himself and going to try to want to get podium and want to get P1 over Max, because I've started to see some, like, a little bit of friction between Max and Checo. And then let's say Fernando Alonso like goes through a blistering lap, or even Leclerc or even Sainz, and then Checo hits it to the wall while Max is going on his fly. Again, hot take, stupid idea, but I'm kind of like getting tired of Max winning, kind of tired of Red Bull winning.
Well, you're still recovering from 2 years ago.
I'm still recovering. Yeah, honestly speaking,
it's an open wound.
It's still there. I'm putting salt on it every day. Every day. Because
he pays big money to a doctor every week to talk about his problems. It's costing him some big money. He's talking to some people with a bunch of letters behind their name. You have it. It happens. Hey, F1 therapy is real.
It's real. It's real.
We got to talk about it.
It's still like, if anyone tells me that Max deserved the championship, his first championship, I hold my tongue. I guess a lot of cuss words are going to come out.
We will delve into that in an entire episode. I would love to go over.
I would, yeah, I would love to talk.
I think, and the way your eyes just lit up there, Eddie, I know that you could handle that podcast solo. So when us three are on vacation, we're just going to hand you the mic and just say, you know what, Max deserved to win. Tell me no.
Prove me wrong. I'll take a picture, go outside, and put on the table. Max didn't deserve his first championship. Prove me wrong. And see how that goes. Man on the Street style podcast.
That's it.
Speaking of support group, let's give a little plug to the Discord server. The link will be in the show notes. We have lots of great information on there. We have channels for each of the races, lots of great conversation. So if you find yourself needing a little support, if you find yourself venting or wanting to vent about Max's 2021 win, hit us up at the Discord channel.
We'll make a specific channel for that. We'll have a Max vent session.
I'll see you guys there. Like, and again, I'll put it in my name. Prove me wrong.
We'll have Ed as the administrator on that channel for sure.
It'll just be Ed typing by himself.
Typing to himself.
This is why he doesn't deserve it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what were we talking about? We were talking about controversies, throwing qualifying. What else was in that article? Any other hot controversies we should talk about?
It was just really about, the controversies with like, well, Ferrari, the whole like Ferrari gate McLaren scandal with like the person he asked his wife to like photocopy a bunch of Ferrari's notes, and like she brought it to like the printing center, and the printing center was like, wait a second, I'm gonna call up McLaren and be like, yo, what the fuck is going on here? I think there's some bull jivery happening, and totally outed it. So like, I guess that's the last time he sends his wife to the printing place to go steal like absolute intellectual property from huge Formula One racing teams. Lesson learned there. Yeah, it was a great article just on like the different controversies. It was such a big blog post that he'd written. Mm-hmm. I had to break it up into 4 sections. So now I have a the controversy of F1. I have an entire blog segment for that because he absolutely smashed it out of the park. And I don't think anyone has the attention span to read a 59-page essay that this guy wrote about that.
Max Verstappen win 2021 controversy article coming soon.
Yeah, I think it posted this morning, or maybe that's the past for you because Thomas is well into tomorrow out in Lithuania. Mr. Back to the Future calling us from Wednesday already. Bless his heart.
Exactly.
All right, let me mark this here quickly. Where do we want to go from here?
Okay, let's go.
Tires, races are entertaining.
Yeah, what do you guys think? So I posted that in the Discord server about, showing the pit stop strategies. Because Pirelli has done such a good job at being a good tire manufacturer, they've almost taken the tires out of the game. Because the pit stop strategies are becoming, like, all the constructors are following the same pit stop strategies. Because when they put it in their little algorithms, it goes beep, bop, bop, beep, boop, 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 and then spits out the same answer. So all these guys are throwing down the same things. You might get 1 or 2 guys on the grid, aka like Williams or Haas, throwing in a wild card because they just want to try out and hopefully the hard compound works or see whatever. But I think that there's an opportunity for Pirelli to kind of switch things up a bit and maybe not have such a perfect tire, because then they'll be able to throw a little bit of, like, I don't know, just some shake and bake on the order, because I think there just needs to be a little bit of a switch up. Thomas, what do you think about the tire compounds?
I agree with you, Drew. I think what you said, they did such a good job. It took a little bit of the fun away from racing, and FIA and Pirelli is like, great, they could keep up with one another, maybe more action. I think it did the opposite. Yeah, they can keep up with each other more easily, but it made the race a little bit more dull too. It doesn't seem as competitive in my eyes and when I'm watching the race. Again, it's I get it why they did it, but at the same time, it made it a little bit too boring in my eyes. And yeah, I agree with you. It would be nice if they could take it back a notch. Make some don't make them as good. Let the driver's skill do the talking instead of the tire. Even though the tire is obviously just as important as the car, but teams are really, really relying on the tires right now, and it shows, right? It shows where you stop, what the strategy you have, what tire you have, and you could just play it like that. So
you know what?
That's my take.
Yes, I agree 100%. Also, I want to note too that Pirelli has put out the new wet compound, and they're going blanketless as per regulations for the wet compound, and allegedly this quali for Monaco has rain in store. Does that change anything about our prior predictions about having a no wet blanket? And so, like, from my understanding, the compound on the tires is a lot less to do with heat and generating the heat because it's a wet compound. There's a lot less contact because of the channels, the water channels in the tire grooves. But I think that the not having the tires warm enough, I know they're low temperature tires, but there's going to be an opportunity for a little bit of a switch up on the grid if Friday and Saturday have any sort of water at all.
Yeah, I mean, I looking at the tires and as it relates to competitiveness in general, I'm not really sure if tires are the answer, right? It's hard to take a sport that is, the pinnacle of technical achievement in motorsport and tell them to like dumb it down a bit. And even if we did tell them to dumb it down and say, hey, Pirelli, like just like chill on the tires a bit, I think there would still be I don't think that would really address the gap or the spread or the boringness, if we want to call it that, or the formulaic approach to these races, because everyone's still working with the exact same product. The predictions are still going to be the same. I think there are a lot of ways to make the sport maybe more competitive and more exciting. Tires are one tool in the toolbox. I think you have things like DRS. I think maybe, I don't know. I mean, they got rid of this for safety, but bringing back refueling, right, as part of the race as well, I think adds a separate dynamic to the race as well. But I don't know if just addressing the tires themselves would really make that much of a difference.
I don't know. For me, like it's because like for the past few years, like the tires have been like on and off. Like there would be years where it's just like absolute garbage. Everyone's complaining about it. Too much degradation. Too much issues. The sidewalls exploding. Even if it's a brand new tire. I think the way things are being set up, because that like remember when they went to the new platform, their entire goal was to have more wheel to wheel racing, a lot more because they
closer, tighter battles.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and that was good last year. I mean, like in terms of how the different cars were just going back and forth in terms of a lot of a lot of battles, a lot of overtakes had happened. But coming into this year, I mean, you can clearly see that the package that Red Bull has really complements the tires that Pirelli has come out with, and kind of like defeats the purpose now of having a lot of wheel to wheel action. Whereas when you have another car that pretty much like blows everyone out of the water, and then you have a fantastic tire too. I think what would really change it from my point of view, and again, it's just my opinion, but when they start really cutting down on the finances of the big teams and like having that capital cap on what teams can spend on, that may start to bring things down. But I mean, for me, I'm all about like having good tires. But yes, the other trade-off is that we no longer have really fantastic undercut strategies. We don't have any issues right now with blowouts that leads into safety, virtual safety car, or safety car, or even a stop of the race, depending on how bad the situation is. And that's part of the fun of the racing within F1. Mm-hmm. Like you need to have those in order to kind of like, oh crap, we boxed in too early, or we boxed just right at the right time, and with with a fantastic tire, the undercut is right there, and that normally may win you the race. So I mean, let's see what happens next year. I would give it a chance. Like nice tire is always nice. Prolongs the race. If they bring down the spending cap, kind of like normalizes every single team, that may create a little bit more action. But yes, to everyone's point here, this year it's going to be pretty much all Red Bull. Like every driver's going to be like, tires are fantastic. My car is fantastic if you're in a top leading team. But if you're not, then it is what it is at this point.
I have an idea. I think I found a way to fix Formula One.
Oh,
paint!
You heard it here first. You heard it here first.
Paint all the tires the same color, and it's just a lottery system.
Ooh.
You get what you get.
Interesting.
You get what you
Now,
get. And
do
you
you
don't get
get
upset.
4 of the same tire? Or could you have like a soft, hard, and intermediate?
No.
You're obviously
we'll do
going to know
sets.
inners and wet, but
We'll do sets because I don't want to get crazy here, but I think it's just blind lottery system. You get what you get on the race day. The crew doesn't know, the driver doesn't know. Just throw them on, throw them off, and that's that. Problem solved.
Yeah, but
flawless plan. I see no flaws in that. There's no kinks in that armor at all. Yeah, no, it's brilliant. Brilliant. We should call it
I
F1
love
right
it.
now.
I love it. I love it because that will add the guessing game again into the
and
mix.
everyone has like had then your force really like your cadence and your pit stop strategy is determined on like the actual performance of the tires. You can't really predict. Does anyone have Stefano's number?
Not offhand. I'll have to go back through my BlackBerry.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Keeping it Canadian.
Maybe
like
in
perfect Canadian fashion, though, we ask for something, we want great tires, and then we get it, and then we complain about it. All we want is summer all year, and then we get summer, and we're like, it's too damn hot. We just want some winter. We want a white Christmas. There's too much snow. Typical Canadian fashion, right? And here we are. We have great tires. You know, Esteban Ocon and I think was it Hulkenberg or Magnussen going the entire race without needing to change tires, and they had mandatory pit in Baku. I think it was Baku, no, Azerbaijan. And that was the most exciting part of the race, was having Ocon come in to Parc Ferm, shout out to Parc Ferm, and coming in and almost smoking a couple of the photographers who weren't paying attention. They closed everything off. That is the most entertaining part of the race. When you look at all the highlights, that's the YouTube clip. Because the race sucked. Straight up.
Yeah, that's true. It was super uneventful.
Which is too bad, because that could be a really fun track to watch.
It's amazing.
And it's traditionally one of my favorite races to watch. But yeah, there wasn't much going on there. Despite them, I think they adjusted some of the DRS zones, tried to make it a little bit more competitive. But again, it was just, they were just lapping at that point.
No, Walker, I'm actually glad you said that, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, but in my opinion, the last couple of races where entertainment was not there. It had a couple, interesting moments, but when I was watching the last couple of races, and I know I'm not alone in this, I know my coworker who follows up on is what he said. It's not as fun. It's not as fun or entertaining to watch as it was last year or the year before. What do you guys think? What's your take on that?
Drew,
I think that there's this is the concept of the gap in the game. You either focus on, the gap being like, oh, it was better before, or you can focus on the gain, which is like, it's better than it has been in the past on some levels. So, they wanted to achieve, like Edward said earlier, they wanted to achieve like closer wheel-to-wheel racing, have it more exciting, dudes fighting, battling in the corner. And then they switched the car up in order to do that, right? Now they have ground effects that they brought back in because they took those away in the 80s when they first figured that out. And now they're bringing it back to get that closer wheel-to-wheel. But what a byproduct of that was watching Red Bull walk away with it, because they figured out the under kit first, and then they pumped in a bunch of upgrades, and everyone else took one step forward, and they leaped 2 steps forward, right? So we get a solution, and then all of a sudden there's other problems, right? So that's what these engineers do. They get a rule book, just like lawyers. They find out what the rules are, and they learn how to break them, right? Or bend them in such a way that the FIA can't say anything. So I believe that they're doing their best, and then they're going to find another way next year, whether it's tires or, like Walker said, I doubt they're going to bring back refueling. But an idea like that to kind of spice it up a bit. And I think, and why I brought this point up, is I think that tires are an easy way to do that. That if they have just, bigger gaps in the compounds between, like, because right now they're using like C1, C2, C3 tires. Why don't they use like C1, C3, C7, and just have a bigger gap in the tires so that you have to play them out differently. If you have to have 2 compounds, they're not right beside each other, right? They're the super soft, the ultra soft, the infinity soft, or whatever they were calling them before. If all they have to do is switch it up a little bit that way, just to see if it brings the pack together, or if it just makes it more entertaining. Because, like you said, Ed, like the undercut and the overcuts they're just not a play anymore, right? Thomas, what do you got on that, bud?
you know what, I agree. If they would go that route, like you said, C1, C2, C7, or whatnot, that changes everything. That changes a lot of things. Strategy becomes almost a dominating force. You really have to think when to pit and what tires to put at what point in the race. Um, yeah, I agree with you on that one, Edward.
But yeah, I mean, like specifically for this year, um, the tires are going to be the end all be all in terms of stability for the entire season. I mean, everyone, as you mentioned earlier, like everyone can go the entire length of the race and not even pit. So that's out of the game. But like having that, I like that widespread, because I remember back in the day, they called. I think they had multiple. They had the prime tire, they had the soft, and they had the super softs, and then they had the enters, and then the wets, and that was it. But like now you had like three choices of the dry tire, which kind of like threw it into again focusing on the strategy. So this year, as I've mentioned earlier, like it's going to remain the same, regardless of what's going to happen when it comes to the tires. I think now it's all going to be just focusing more on what other upgrades can they actually do. Biggest question is, can they catch up to Adrian Newey's designs with Red Bull? Um, and can anyone pull a rabbit out of their hat? And because like strategy is not going to be the game anymore. It's all now down to the engineers.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm still going to pull for refueling and random tires, but that's just me. But yeah, I mean, all that other stuff sounds good too. That's all good.
All right, before we wrap this up, I really want to go through everybody and just do like top three. What do you think the podium's going to look like for Monaco? Walker.
Let's go Hamilton, Piastri, and
Okay.
Ocon.
Okay.
Why the hell not?
Okay. Eddie.
Piastri, I love it.
Wow. Wow.
I love it. I would say I want, yeah, unpopular opinion. Checo P1, Alonso P2. I don't know who's P3. I'm thinking between Leclerc or Verstappen, but I think Verstappen's going to take it.
Thomas.
Drew, quickly repeat the question you cut out there while you were saying top three.
Top three for the podium this week.
On top three, okay, Bottas, Alonso, and Leclerc. I know I'm contradicting myself a little bit. I totally get that, but
what car is
with.
Bottas driving in Thomas's world? What car did Bottas land himself? Is he taking like a gentleman's car, and he's just taking like? He'd have a better chance
of fucking Corolla. That Alpha is gonna unleash its power, and the whole grid is gonna fuck up, and he's gonna make it, and he's gonna be P1, baby.
I love it.
He's driving.
I'm taking my headphones off. I can't even listen to this nonsense. This is absolute nonsense. All right, I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna go with.
Are you the voice of reason here?
No, I'm the voice. Yes, the voice of fact. This is gonna happen. I'm gonna pull out. Charles Leclerc is not gonna put it in the wall in qualities. He's gonna pull it out, and I think he's gonna take number one. Number two, I'm gonna go with Checo because fuck Max Verstappen. But realistically, I think Max is a good driver, and I think he's gonna come in third. But I'd love to see Leclerc, Checo, Verstappen. That's me.
Well, that's just boring, man. You trying to be ready? Trying to be entertaining.
No. We're not taking our long shots here. If we want to do top three long shots, we're just gonna start picking people. Then Bottas starts to make sense.
Hey.
That's it. Take off your pants and show me your Bottas, buddy.
There we go. Okay, so we're wrapping up episode 2.
Yes,
the pre-Monaco, post-Imola race. Thank you for listening. Subscribe wherever podcasts are heard. subscribe wherever you're listening to this, because really, you know where to find us by now. Any lasting words?
No, it was nice to have Eddie up on deck this time. We definitely
welcome,
rounded out
Ed.
this little. Yeah, I'm pumped
Yeah, it's
about
fun.
that, man.
It was fun. I when I was listening to episode 1, I kept on just like, I have stuff to say. I have stuff to say.
He's getting a serious case of FOMO at home. Man, for sure. Yeah, we're glad to have you on board.
No, glad to be here too, guys.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Thanks everybody for listening to episode 2. We'll be at you with a post Monaco. Let's hope there's no storms in Monaco, so we get a post Monaco. So thanks for listening, everybody.
All right, ciao.
Later, guys.